Just check my sound real quick. Try to go ahead and get this going. What's going on? What's going on, everybody? Make sure I got my things going on here. Been wanting to punch this clock, as BGS says, for a little while. Sounds extra loud in here. What's going on? Let me see. Is this better? I think this is a bit better. All right. Wait till we get to like 45 seconds point. All right, what's going on, everybody? This is the HiiiScholar here. Checking in again, punching this clock one more time. Been wanting to do this for a while, but I've actually had some situation where I needed a little dental surgery, so I couldn't even get to this at this time. But trying to go ahead and do this, punch this clock, get into it. Hopefully you guys have checked out my last show. My last show was talking about Ali Sadiq's loss and how black boys navigate relationships and death, and really the supports and coping mechanisms that are present and not present. Today's show is a little different. I haven't figured out what I'm going to call it quite yet, but it's really around black boys and navigating undesired attractions to them, or learning to reject undesired attention or undesired attractions. And this conversation really for me came out of a conversation about, navigating this as a black man. And as a black man at work, I have to navigate, black women at work. I'm a teacher. I work in the education field, which is dominated by women. So in many spaces, in many ways, I have had an experience that is quite counter to what men will say is the normal, work corporate experience. I've worked in the field where 75% are white women. The other 20-ish% are, black women or other women. And about, 2 to 3, almost 5% are men of different ethnic and racial groups. So having that experience in the workspace, I started to think more deeply about attachments and relationships and relationships over the course of development. And I realized that most of the conversation that we're having around, navigating, rejecting the attraction of those who you do not want to be in a relationship with, it's often focused primarily on black girls and black women in our community. And rightfully so, because there is an inherent danger or a danger there when it comes to engaging boys and men, when it comes to physical size differences after puberty. But in that conversation, I realized that while I was learning to navigate a coworker who tries to monopolize my attention and comments on my looks daily, things that we know should go to a particular HR or oversight entity. In that conversation, I was able to reference one of my students, male students, a boy in my class, and ask him a question around, have you had the experience of having to navigate a girl who likes you that you do not like, and having to be in tune, perform some emotional labor, and really be, white gloves, if you will, really be tender and as direct, but also considerate as you can be with the feelings of that girl. And I found it interesting because he nodded and he smirked and he said yes very clearly. So it's something that as I started to think more clearly or deeper about the experiences of black boys, I was reminded that no, during that onset where we all start wanting attention and attachments and relationships that comes with being a teenager, black boys are oftentimes left to their own devices or told that they just have to, take what comes your way. Oftentimes, they're not equipped with the same valuing of self, love of self that you can learn how to navigate unwanted advances. So it's interesting that we live in a society that, we think about rejection and the dangers that a teenage girl or a grown woman will have in a, club or night, mall, or the reaction in the physical space, and we're one-to-one being possibly dangerous whenever you reject a man. And it's not discussed enough how girls and women are dangerous whenever they're rejected by boys and men, particularly black boys and black men. And I could honestly argue that there's scholarship that says that this boot camp and not knowing how to navigate unwanted advances comes extremely early for black boys, and we're crippled, or we're not given the opportunity to develop that how to navigate rejecting unwanted attention and rejecting unwanted relationships. But you can look at Utley and Curry's work and how they talk about the earliest sexual debut of black boys. So even at the earliest, 5 years old, 4 years old, 6 years old, you're starting to already see that the preferences of the boy, what he wants, that mutual selection process that attachment should be for intimate attachments is not there, or is not respected. And I think that that is something that I hadn't thought so deeply about. I'm like, you guys are getting this kind of fresh off the presses of my brain. But I should have known this about attachments, because as I think about, for example, like, not only are we making the early sexual debut, but with the early sexual debut, we kind of learn one of two, and maybe a few, but one of two that I've kind of thought through already, ways that we now carry ourselves when we seek attachments, or attachments that are being sought with us. And one of those two ways that I think that we start to engage with these attachments is either we feel obligated because our desires do not matter. So we start feeding into the, stereotypical idea of the black brute, or, just kind of licentious, this always wanting sex with any kind of woman. It doesn't even matter if it's a woman, any hoe will do. So we sometimes find ourselves, instead of actually navigating our own preferences and whether we want this attachment and this relationship with the people who are pursuing us, we figure anybody who pursues us is our obligation to respond. Or you find yourself having to learn this emotional labor of how to nicely let her down, is what we say here in the South. But you got to find a way to consider her feelings, even though they are different from your feelings. And I find it interesting that we have to do that at a very early age. And we do that for the fear of a few things. In the conversation that we have about black girls and black women, they talk about the physical violence that they will face if they reject a man. And while that is recognized, that is real and actual, we can't ignore that how girls and women are going to show, are going to accost the boy, or their damage will be different. And we've seen that in bullying. So early in our formative years, like in elementary school, when a boy is learning to reject a girl, a black boy is learning to reject a girl, he oftentimes will, have to endure passive aggressive bullying, possibly have to deal with proxy violence of other siblings or people around, family members, who she tells, different stories perhaps because the boy really doesn't like her, but now she brings up these other reasons why they're not engaging. You even deal with things like social alienation and isolation. So think through, you have to learn how to nicely let her down and consider her feelings, because if you don't do that as a black boy, you may be passive aggressively bullied. You may have to fight someone that she has now brought into your situation because she feels like she's owed your attention. She's owed this relationship with you. And because you didn't do that, she has to get her brother. She has to get her cousin. She has to get her uncle. She has to get some other boy or male or man to come address you, because you don't understand that you're supposed to just affirm her, accept her attachment to you, or your relationship to you. And again, I'm continuing this conversation about attachments that I started with Ali Sadiq's, loss, but it was just really fascinating to me that we keep talking about the physical violence that black girls and women endure, having to learn how to navigate, rejecting the unwanted advances of black men, and sometimes black boys, teenage boys particularly. But we are not talking enough about, as black boys and men, we also have to endure this idea of, are we first a stereotypical black beast where we're willing to have sex with whomever is attracted to us, and who we're attracted to. So we're just on this constant pursuit of sex. And while that stereotype has been damaging to the image of black men and boys, it's something that, continues on in that exchange of, well, I like you. Why are you not doing what you're supposed to do? And for some of us, black boys and men, that resonates. Like, we've heard that before. Like, hey, I brought myself to you. I said I like you. I say I want to attach to you. I want a relationship with you. You now have to do your part in being the black boy man who you're just supposed to say yes. You're supposed to be a yes man. And I think that happens in our relationships and attachments. And we will be ignorant to ignore that boys in school are dealing with this, and sometimes the social alienation, isolation they feel, the fights that we see, even some of the passive aggressive bullying from the cliques, is them trying to get back at a boy that they like and he didn't return or have the same feelings about them. And that's something that we haven't said enough. It hasn't come out as much as it should, especially when you start thinking about how black boys make the earliest sexual debut. They're not allowed this kind of preferential, confirmation. This is who I want to engage with. And then if you go to another article that Utley and Curry talk about, most of the time when we have our first sexual experience is going to be with a friend, somebody that we trust as much as they want to be trusted. So, or want to find trust in us. So it's something that we got to have more deeper conversations around. We can't just be, looking at black boys as this kind of, your preference doesn't matter. However, I'm not always sure that we have this obligation that we must let them down nicely. I don't think that we have to be crude or mean, but I think being direct and being blunt, there's no harm in that. And I think that we learn very early. Others talk about how we learn this kind of emotional labor from dealing with, our caregivers and mothers. Excuse me. Our caregivers and mothers, but there are other situations. I think in this case, trying to learn how to navigate dating and mating at an early age, and I'm talking about late elementary through high school, you learn very early that as a boy, there's a certain way you have to navigate those girls that you do not want to engage. They like you, but you don't like them. What do you do with them now? And I find that we find ourselves tiptoeing around our own feelings to foreground the feelings of others. I find us trying to, all right, I know how I feel about her. I don't really like her, but I now have to understand that and still consider her feelings, because her feelings could blow this whole thing up into a proxy violence situation where I'm in a fight after school, or I'll start feeling an alienation or isolation and wonder why. And I don't know that she's now out here spreading, rumors about me, gossip about me that is not true, but it will cause people to move away from me. So just want to add to this conversation again about attachments. I think that's going to be something I stick on for a little while, especially when it comes to black boys and black men, and how a lot of our experiences in attachments are not being documented or being interpreted only from the lens of the black woman or black girl that we're engaging, and not giving us the humanistic view of a black boy or a black man who may be experiencing something similar, or even something that possibly could be worse because of the damage being passive or passive aggressive, proxy. So you think it's just two boys that are fighting, and it's the cousin or brother of someone or a friend of the girl who's trying to quote unquote protect her honor, when they don't know they're really trying to force the unwanted advances of this girl into this boy. And when you say it in that kind of language, it kind of sounds different. It sounds very different when you start thinking that, you have to teach girls that every boy is not going to like them. And I'm not sure in this society right now it's gotten any better in teaching that. I think that we teach that, boys and men want girls and women, and especially black boys want black girls, and black men want black women. And we leave that, plainly, and not enough conversation around, what does it really look like when this boy may not want to date this girl? This boy may not want her attention. This boy may not want her gift giving. This boy may not want her to, may not want to give back the same feelings of attraction that she's trying to give to him. What do we do with that then? Is the boy now obligated to engage that girl? Is he now obligated to, at the very least, nicely let her down easy because, his own feelings are important, but he can damage her, as we say in colloquial terms. So I think it's fascinating that we've gotten to that I thought this in this way, because Again, the conversation is largely rooted in girls and women. And they talk, as they should, because there are violent situations that they are faced with. But I think that we have to also speak our experiences and talk about how, in our experiences, we've had real conversations and having to with each other on like, how should I really navigate this, because this can really go left. How should I really navigate this woman, particularly in college, for example, because she can sully my social reputation and social capital off of something that just is related to her feelings around me and confirming or denying her advances towards me. So hopefully in this conversation, as I wrap it up, like I said, I didn't want to be here long. I've been wanting to punch this clock for a while, but I go back and forth on whether to do live shows or pre-recorded shows or what have you. But I still want to make sure I get this out. This was something fresh off my brain. That came organically out of a situation where, I'm trying to have a conversation about what I'm navigating. And it just hit me like, no, this is something that boys have been navigating since we started liking each other. It's like as soon as we start liking each other in a kind of boy-girl kind of way or in any other kind of fashion, my opinion about who I liked was backgrounded, and who they liked, the girls liked, was foregrounded. And I was even given, I thought about it when I was having a conversation, like my father, I remember, hey, this girl likes me. I already like her. I'm going to tell her tomorrow. And he's like, hey, you wait 1 second. You just can't go and tell a girl that you don't like her back. Like that can have, that could do this, and that to you. And just him having that conversation to intercede and me going back and being honest about my feelings speaks to the work that we have to do, the labor that we have to do to understand that we just can't reject the girl. And once that conversation was introduced, that's been my orientation. It kind of oriented me to, yes, understand your feelings, but also you need to make sure that you understand what could happen when you communicate them to the girl or to the woman and how she could respond. So he had to inform me, before you tell her that you don't like her back, are you ready for her? And how you need to understand how you're going to say that, because she's going to want to respond in these different ways. And I thank him for that, but it's also something that is problematic, and we got to start calling that out. It's problematic that black boys have to let people down easily. It's problematic that black men have to worry about, passive aggressive, violence or proxy violence or social alienation, isolation, just because they don't like a woman, particularly a black woman. They don't like her back. And that's something that I think we don't have enough conversations around, that it's not an obligation for black boys to be, or black boys and men to be just proverbial daters of anybody and everybody, no matter, who they are, how they look, and what they bring to the table and what they offer. And that's in many ways how people approach us. It's still, related to many things we discussed on this channel and other channels. And I think that this is another conversation to add to to many of the conversations we're having in Black male studies and the Black manosphere around relationships and attachments, because we to take a certain approach to rejecting unwanted advances that I don't feel like has been recognized, has been had a full microscope over how we're so delicate in that process. And even in that process of being delicate, I remember my father still telling me, like, even with all your consideration, this could go left, or this still could go wrong, because she still could want her brother to fight you. She still could spread gossip about you and that you like her or don't like her, or that you're mean. And I even wonder, sometimes my mind can roam to how many of my engagements with women, especially like in high school and college, were a result of them, hearing gossip about me because I rejected another friend, or I rejected another girl in the class. I rejected a woman at the college level who then said, oh no, girl, don't go with him. He got these other things going on. And it was not true, but it was her way to socially alienate or isolate me without me knowing. Like just spreading, slander and libel around, or just, talking bad behind your back is just as bad as that actual violence of the man not getting your number. So I know there's physical violence that girls and women are faced with. I'm not trying to undersell that, but I'm also trying to highlight that boys at an early age learn to background their feelings, to recognize that a girl likes them and put her down nice and easy. And even later on, they still have to learn to fear that proxy violence, fear the alienation, isolation, fear the passive aggressiveness. And so you fear it so much that you go end up like, you don't even care how you feel about her. You just want to make sure that she doesn't somehow turn on you because she likes you. And I don't think that's a fear that many others have for as long as Black boys and men have. And that's just, something I was thinking about in a classroom setting where I'm trying to stop my coworker from doing it to me. And, as a Black man, I'm like, oh, that's just par for the course. I just have to keep coming to work and do my job. And because I don't want to, end up causing any of these things to happen to me. And then it hit me that, no, I've been doing this my whole life. I've been, if a girl liked me, I had to, let her down easy. And then as a high school student, let her down easy. As a man, I could be married, but I still have to let her down easy. I still have to follow my own rules and my own compass, but I have to let her down easy. And that's the part, the letting her down easy is the part that I find interesting. And I think it's something that we need to have more conversations around. I really want to hear what your thoughts, leave your thoughts in the comments. Let me know. Am I talking about something that's relevant, to Black boys and their experience of, not being able to just reject, unwanted advances, unwanted lovers? Or is it something that, is isolated to some situations that, I'm thinking too much about it? So, yeah, I'm right here at the 21 minute mark. I'm not here to be long winded about it, even though I've, talked through it. Hopefully you guys found this interesting. If you're still listening at this point, I appreciate you. Please like, subscribe, share the video if you can. If you like this conversation I'm having and want to support this conversation, you can always tip a scholar at $ Dr. QB, DLCTOR QB. Just go ahead and drop me $1 there. I appreciate it. And until next time, as you already know, HiiiScholar's here, amazed but never surprised. Peace, peace.